we love using books as a reset button in our house, and I keep getting mad at myself because I keep forgetting how good of a reset button books
Yeah.
are. And at random times of the day, it doesn't just have to be read aloud time or like Bible story time or at bedtime. We can grab them at any time of the day when the siblings are bickering or picking on each other,
Mm,
or I guess when the toddler is being difficult during school time. Then I
yeah.
just say, okay, let's go over to the couch. And we did this earlier this week. We just grabbed a book, went over to the couch, and that was in the middle of other lessons. And we sat down and we, including the toddler, got absorbed in a book. And then everyone just feels like it's been a breath of fresh air and we can
Yeah.
start.
Welcome to Our Life Homeschooling. My name is Sherry, Christian, wife to my high school sweetheart Nelson, and thankful mom to 10 incredible kids. I'm the author of the blog and YouTube channel Our Life Homeschooling, where I share homeschooling encouragement for everyday moms. I believe that motherhood is ministry, and homeschooling is simply an extension of parenting. My passion is to cheer on other moms who are at home doing the most important work of all, raising the next generation for the glory of God.
Hi, and welcome to Our Life Homeschooling. I'm excited to share today's guest with you. This is Hannah Olson. She's a friend I met recently. She's a mom to 3 young children, and she is going to be talking today all about homeschooling in that stage when you have all young children at home. This is a stage I remember so clearly. So I knew that it would be great to have someone come on who is kind of in that time of life talking about some of those things that I forget after having homeschooled all these years. Hannah has a lot of great resources. She's going to be sharing with us her favorite curriculum, what she does for quiet time in the afternoon, what she does when she has an infant, how she handles interruptions that happen from a toddler. So this is going to be a conversation that will really encourage you if you're in that season of life with your kids. Let's go ahead and get started. Hi, Hannah.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me. I was so excited when I stumbled across your YouTube channel a couple weeks ago, and I was just watching your videos and felt like it was kind of taking me back in time to when I had younger kids and I was in your stage of homeschooling. And it just made me think, I still have younger kids, still doing that. It looks so different now, but it just made me think that there are things that I probably forget about that stage. And so I thought it would be so nice to have someone who is right in the thick of it, homeschooling young kids, to come on and just talk about what you're doing every day in this stage.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you. It's been so fun to connect with you and for me to see a mom who is multiple steps ahead of our family. So it's been great.
Yeah. Well, then why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell people where they can find you?
Yes, so my name is Hannah Olson, and I am a former elementary school teacher turned stay-at-home homeschooling mom. And I live in Minnesota with my husband. We've been married just about 11 years now. We have a 7.5-year-old, 5.5-year-old, and soon to be 2-year-old. And so, yeah, we're several stages behind you. Well, I know you have little ones too. And my blog is called Just Be, like Bee. And so a lot of my handles follow that pattern. So it's Hannah B. Olson over on Instagram, and my blog is justbeblog.com. And then more recently, I've always been a blogger for a very long time, and I love writing still, but I've more recently shifted over to YouTube, and that's been a really fun endeavor. So I'm Hannah Olson, I think, over on YouTube, or Hannah B. Olson for the handle there.
Okay. And I'm just curious, how did you get interested in homeschooling? What led you to homeschooling? Were you homeschooled yourself?
I was not actually. Both my husband
Okay.
and I were public schooled all the way from kindergarten up through 12th grade, and we didn't know each other then. We met actually at a Christian university, but it's been very interesting and a learning curve for sure for our family, but such a fun, wholesome, good learning curve for us to learn what it's like to be a homeschooling family. So yeah, it's been quite the journey already, and we have many years to go. But I feel like as we get this plane off the ground a bit with homeschooling, it's always interesting to see logistically how it looks. But yeah, so we were public schooled, and what drew us to homeschooling, well, there's just several reasons. I think for every family, for us, our faith, that really has affected our decision. We still like some of the schools in our area, but it's just wonderful to have the morals and values that we prioritize and that we uphold so highly in our own hearts be instilled in our children. And that's where all the foundational bed work is laid at home. And we just also, we have a more mobile lifestyle, I guess you could say. So my husband is a state legislator, and so what that means is we're in Minnesota, but we live in southern Minnesota for most of the year. And then for 5 months out of the year when the legislature is in session, the kids and I move with our husband in order to keep our family together. And I think that's the resounding theme for a lot of homeschooling families out there is to keep the family together, to have that time. And so otherwise, we would live without without my husband, without the kids' dad, for 5 months out of the year, and this way we get 12 months of the year together as a family. And then, of course, you see things online about how many hours you get back with your kids by homeschooling, or get back meaning they aren't in a public schooling system. They're not taking the school bus and going far away from you for the day. And of course, that can be a lot to be around each other 24/7. But yeah, I would say that's generally what has drawn us to homeschooling. Our lifestyle is a little bit unique, but at the end of the day, it's that time together.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. That's a little bit of the reason that we started. My husband doesn't travel or anything, but he worked shift work. And so if they were in school, there would be whole weeks where they probably wouldn't see him. And so that was initially our reason for starting. One of the reasons was that we just wanted our family together. So that is wonderful. That is a wonderful reason to homeschool, is to keep that family unit together. So, so important. So with having young children, how do you prepare for homeschooling preschool? Or what does homeschooling preschool look like for you?
That's a good question. And I know it can look different for every family. I want to start by saying that for me, being trained as an elementary school teacher, the temptation, regardless of if you're trained, educated in education, the temptation is to try to replicate school at home. And so to prepare for preschool, it doesn't mean to go and visit a public school preschool and then bring that all home and try to have the regimented day the same way that they would do it with all the routines and with the kids and all the activities. And I would say with our firstborn, Sophie, I was very excited to start. And we start kind of young in our family just because I'm not a very crafty mom. And so it's just something fun to do with the kids is the academic stuff. But with Sophie, I was tempted to definitely do all of the more regimented activities, like, now we're doing this calendar time, now we're moving here, now we're going to sing this song every day. And that can sometimes work for families, or it can kind of lose the shine for everyone a little bit. So that's my first bit of advice, is to actually not try to replicate the classroom, even at the preschool age. Practically speaking, I would recommend getting a huge stack of books. And we want to instill a love for learning in our kids from birth. And I mean, I even see our 2-year-old. She is in on things. She's so excited to read with us, and she's trying to learn, in every second of it. But so in a way, we're kind of preparing our 2-year-old for preschool. Not now, but it's an on-ramp. And so we definitely want to instill a love for lifelong learning, and a big stack of books really helps. I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I would recommend doing. And
Yeah.
then I'll probably touch on this more later if I get a chance, but I'm a big fan of routines and having meaningful, purposeful anchors in our day every day.
Yeah.
And so to prepare for school, I honestly would recommend that moms get into a routine. And that doesn't mean an hour by hour routine that you write in your planner, unless that works for you and your family.
Yeah.
But major, just those big old chunks of your day, even
Yeah.
if it's
What comes next?
yes, what
Yes.
comes next? And then the rhythm is we glide into this next thing, and then we kind of tidy up this, and we shift over to the next part of our day, which is maybe nap time. But even once your child leaves nap time, there are other ways to still maintain rhythms of your day where the whole day isn't just a free for all or just all free time. And
Yes.
so I would recommend having schedules just because those little routines can lend themselves to a really smooth homeschool morning. If the kids know that it's kind of sit down and book time anyway after breakfast, that will really help once you start doing even more academic work.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. Kids feel so much security when they know what to expect and when they know what comes next. For us, after lunch, we go out and play, and then we come in. And when we come in, my little ones, who are 3 and 2 right now, they just automatically come back to my bedroom, get in the rocking chair because they know we're going to be rocking together and reading a story. It's what we've done, ever since they can remember, is we sit and read a story before nap time, and then they go down for nap time. And so they thrive on knowing what to expect. And really having a routine sets you up for homeschooling, because then you're getting into these rhythms when you have school-age children that are just kind of already set, and it's a part of the family, and it's not a big adjustment for anyone. It's just kind of the way it is, and it just changes a little bit and becomes a little bit more academic. But it's just kind of setting the stage and laying the groundwork for what's going to come next for them.
I agree. That's wonderful that your younger kids just pile into the rocking chair and they know
Yeah.
the routine and the rhythm. And it's probably not that you've sat them down and said that at 1:15 every day we're going to do
Right.
this. It's just they kind of look to mama and then to the other older kids of the family to help. So that's why I'm trying so hard at these younger stages to lay the groundwork, because
Yeah.
I've seen in moms like you and families like yours that once you really do that hard work at the beginning, then everyone else can follow suit with the routines of the day and knowing
So
what to
true.
expect with homeschooling. So that
Yeah.
helps.
Yes. So true. It'll definitely benefit you as your oldest gets older to have just started that, for sure. What about when you have an infant? When you have an infant, can you give any suggestions? Because I think all of us who are homeschooling at some point had a baby along the way. And I know this was something that was always a big challenge for me whenever it was a baby year. It's just there's a new need and you have to find a new normal in your home with this child that changes so quickly in the first year. There's a couple months where you're not getting sleep, and then you start getting sleep, but then they're like into everything. So do you have any suggestions for that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think the nature of homeschooling, it doesn't always work out like this, but there tends to be other children involved.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of it. And that kind of surprised me, which is so ironic or funny. Of course, homeschooling means we're surrounded by our children, but it's kind of like, oh, we have to figure out what to do with the baby and everything else. And especially if you don't want to homeschool just in the fringes of your day in a more kind of panicked way, we do have to create those rhythms or at least strategies for how to deal with those little ones
Yeah.
in a loving way, of course, and make sure their needs are met. So, for instance, when our third born, Svea, was a baby, I honestly don't remember that much about homeschooling during our first two in terms of like what I did with Soren, our middle child, because he was 2 years after our first. And so that was a little closer together. But Svea, came when our second born was about 2.5. So I was doing preschool and like kindergarten, I think, with our oldest two. And so when Svea was born, she was born in March, and so we did still want to finish off the school year. And I would say when you have a nursing baby, a very new baby, there is just a lot of nursing while doing lessons. So lessons are happening while you're holding the
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
Pretty much you're kind of one-handed, if not zero-handed, for those lessons. And we did a lot, logistically speaking, from the couch. And I think that that's a beautiful benefit of homeschooling is you can do it anywhere. You can go
Yeah.
around the kitchen table, but for us, when I had two that I was schooling and holding a baby, the couch just worked really well. And I could send someone off to do independent work nearby and then, or set them up with an activity, and then I would be holding and nursing Svea on the couch. And that's kind of how it goes. Now, once they are more mobile and that gets more tricky, but then they're also, they tend to take more regimented or more predictable, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
naps. And so when Svea was doing morning naps, we would often push homeschool time slightly to 10 or 10:30 in the morning, whereas I would typically prefer to start around 8:30 or 9. But that 10 or 10:30 time is what happened during the morning nap for her because frankly, that is when you can focus better.
Right, right.
But I know we can't always schedule around everyone's naps. Nowadays, she is almost 2, and there's a lot that's different now.
Yeah.
I would say definitely whenever you can put the baby down, that helps. Or some moms wear the baby a lot. I haven't done a ton of that. But if the baby is resting nearby, that's a time when you can really hone in on your direct instruction time
Yeah.
with like one-on-one teaching your math lesson to one of your students. And that has really worked well for us. Trying to keep the baby entertained, though, I know is always a tricky one. And then I rely on advice from moms like you who say that just stick to the basics, the reading.
Yeah, right.
Like, don't try to do it all in a season with a new baby or even any age baby.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it all, and you don't have to purchase, this is kind of a side note, but you don't have to purchase a curriculum, exact curriculum for science for every single child and a curriculum for social studies for every single
Right.
child, because then you're trying to, once again, replicate the open up the textbooks and go to all these different classes approach of public school. And that's just not how home life and family life runs. So
Yeah,
we do
yeah.
want to prioritize the rhythms of life with a baby too.
Right, right. And I remember that so clearly. It's funny. I knew that when I talked to you, there would be stages of that time period that would just come back to me. But I remember that when it was like when the baby would go down for their morning nap, it was, okay, guys, come on. We have like a little bit of time. Let's get some stuff done. And that was when we could do it because it was quiet. And so we would fit it in during those times. And yes, keeping the family together for certain subjects like science, history, all those group subjects is just so beneficial in homeschooling because I think those are things that are easy to learn together as a group. And there's always those individualized subjects like math and learning to read and things where the kids are going to be on different levels. But my kids have just enjoyed learning history together. As a family, we learn history songs, and so grouping those things makes it easier on us, but I also think it makes it more enjoyable for everyone.
Then they can all relate to what they've been learning in the same
Right.
subject together, and you can develop family, even inside jokes based off of
Yeah.
what they've been learning.
And conversations. We've had so many dinner conversations based on what everyone was learning in our science or our history that we wouldn't have had if everyone was doing something different all the time. So it generates a lot of conversations. So can you give any tips then when the toddler or the baby interrupts school time, which we can't always have them down for naps, And of course, we don't always want them down for naps. Babies are so sweet. I have honestly loved having a baby in our homeschool all these years, even though, yes, it has been very hard. It's been hard, but they just bring something so sweet and so innocent to the school day that I've loved it. So when they are awake and when they are with us, can you give any ideas of just when they interrupt? What do you do when they interrupt what you're doing?
Yeah, and I know you're a wealth of knowledge and experience in this area too. And so I can speak to what I've done with two different younger ones interrupting. So Svea, like I said, is just about 2. She only naps in the afternoon, and she is with us during the morning time all day, every day. But during morning time, like which is at our younger age levels, that's when we do school. It hasn't quite spilled over into academic work in the afternoon unless need be. So during the morning time, we're all together, and Svea is in the thick of it. She's a very busy little girl, like all toddlers are. And what I would say we do, my strategies are, first of all, preventative or proactive. First of all, and then I can speak to what I do when she interrupts, but to be proactive about it, I try to set Svea up with activities that are novel and interesting and engaging for her. We have our tried and true, our trusty Magnetiles, just magnetic toys to play with. We have Schleich animals, which are just little animal toys. Those are our trusty toys that can be used all the time. And they're out in our living room, and Svea can definitely play with those. She also likes to color with paper and crayons and stuff like that. So if those things, are something that's engaging her already, we're going to just shift over, transition into that one-on-one time, or I'll, set up my son with his independent work and start teaching my daughter here at the kitchen table. But if those activities aren't looking like they're going to hold the toddler's interest, I actually keep a bin or a shelf sometimes of school time activities for the toddler. And this isn't, it's kind of the concept of a busy bin. I know some moms are very intentional about, Monday you get this bin out and Tuesday this bin. I've tried to set that up before. I've labeled bins, but I didn't really enter the rotation system.
Yeah, you get out the Monday bin and they see the Thursday bin and they want the other one.
Yeah, exactly. So it is what it is. But what I do is I just have a collection of, I think it's like 5, maybe a little more, different activities for her. And so this is part, again, of being proactive. When it's school time, I'll often scoop her up and I'll show her that shelf and she can see them. And I say, which of these toys do you want to play with during school today? Because it's kind of her school time. She should be doing something productive, not destructive during school time. And so she's got I have a lot of examples and stuff of them. But for instance, she has a little hedgehog that's a sensory thing where you put these plastic spikes in the hedgehog. She has colorful sticks that match, into little holes that match the color. She has a couple little puzzles that are appropriate for, age 2. And we love a little game called Teddy Bear Match, which is just something like that. I think it's Teddy Bear Match. Little matching teddy bears. There's 2 of each style of bear. Just darling little games that she can kind of get absorbed in. So I have her play with those, hopefully. We have wooden fish too, where the tail hooks on. So something that she doesn't need a lot of assistance or help with, but that is exciting. I usually, when she picks one of those, I usually give her 2 or maybe 3 of those activities because we know how it goes with attention spans.
Right.
So I just don't get them all out every day though, because what we want to do is keep it novel and engaging for her. And a final thing that I do try to do proactively is I make sure she's had breakfast or she has a snack. And then I also get our dollhouse out. We just have a little Calico Critters dollhouse. And I've found that moving it or any other activities to a new location, still in the main living area, is suddenly novel and exciting. And so when we move that dollhouse up onto the coffee table, it's at her waist height or, I don't know, eye height for her, eye level. And so she suddenly can play with her dollhouse even more. So those are some practical ideas I do to try to really set us up for success. But then, of course, anything can happen still. Kids are not subject to, the perfect formula of how you set up activities. It's not going to give you the same outcome every day based on a lot of factors, and if she's just feeling whiny or clingy or just needs to sit with mama. So when she then interrupts, and I say when because I don't think there's really any days where it's 100% of
Right.
the teaching time where she's 100% engaged. But when she interrupts, then I will kind of gauge on if I can redirect her or keep her, interested in her activity. I might hop up and get her reset up with something cute and fun to do. But if all else fails, I will definitely just hold her on my lap, and I tend to grab any nearby scrap of paper and I'll start drawing things that she likes while I'm still teaching math or something. She loves babies, so I'll just sketch things or give her a crayon to try to fill it in, and that has worked pretty well. And then at the end of the day, in conclusion, you definitely sometimes need to shift school to later in the day. You can make that judgment call as the mom and as the teacher.
Right.
Maybe the baby is truly just having a fit and pulling things off the table, and that's not going to be workable. I guess my final piece of advice for toddlers interrupting is we love using books as a reset button in our house, and I keep getting mad at myself because I keep forgetting how good of a reset button books are. And at random times of the day, it doesn't just have to be read aloud time or like Bible story time or at bedtime. We can grab them at any time of the day when the siblings are bickering or picking on each other, or I guess when the toddler is being difficult during school time. Then I just say, okay, let's go over to the couch. And we did this earlier this week. We just grabbed a book, went over to the couch, and that was in the middle of other lessons. And we sat down and we, including the toddler, got absorbed in a book. And then everyone just feels like it's been a breath of fresh air and we can start. So
That is great advice. That is great advice. Find whatever it is that will reset. And books, books. Another one I would say for our kids might have been outside. Go outside for a few minutes, and that kind of resets everything and gets everybody ready again to start.
I love that. That's a good one to remember.
Yeah. So can you go through a typical day for us? What does it look like step by step? How long does it take?
A typical homeschooling day? Yes. Well, every day we try to do school every weekday. And so on a typical weekday, the kids, again, this goes back to the routines and rhythms, how valuable they are for our family. The kids get up at the same time every day. They have a nightlight, and you can get clocks too that glow a certain color at certain times of the day. So that means they know when they can come out of their room. And of course they can go to the bathroom and things like that. This is like life with young little kids.
My sister, she's like 10 years behind me. She has one of those alarm clocks. And when she told me about it, I was so jealous that I did not have that for the first 10 years with my older kids, because it would have been perfect. It's like, how do you keep them in their rooms, so they're not getting up super early, but then, you want them to know when it's time to come out. It just sounds like such an awesome tool. And we didn't have that when we had little kids.
Yes, it is such a gift. And on Amazon, you can nowadays find just a simple, I think it's called Mela alarm clock. And I used to have that for Sophie, our oldest. And then I found that Hatch Rest nightlight on sale at a consignment shop. And so that one, I literally just set it to glow green. And so the kids come out of their room saying, our clock is green. So that's about at 7:30 or 7:40 every morning. That gives me the time to do what I need to do in the morning if I want to get up before the kids, which I try to do. So our day starts at the same time. The kids jump into playtime. For whatever reason, our kids are not naturally starving at, the second they wake up. I don't know why, but our family's rhythm and routine is they just play for a little while and then we ease into breakfast. And especially this current school year with Sophie being in first grade, I've tried to get in the routine of during breakfast time, we do our morning basket or morning time, some people call it. That's when we do Bible stories or our Truth and Grace catechism work. It's just a little catechism memory book for kids. We also have been reading Little Pilgrim's Progress, and that's one
Oh,
I
so
know.
good. My
Yeah.
kids love that book, and I love that book.
Yeah, it always kind of chokes me up as
Yeah.
I'm reading it because it's such a meaningful, story and like allegory. But
Yeah.
yeah, we just try to do morning work if I've eaten breakfast because that's important too for moms to make sure they're
Right.
included in the eating routines of the day too. But so yeah, the kids wake up, playtime, breakfast, and then they get playtime again because I like to reset the kitchen table. We don't have a dedicated schoolroom, and so
Yeah.
there are so many little mini resets during our day. And I get that all cleared off, and they play again, maybe with magnetiles and stuff nearby, or play in the basement here at our rental house. They have like a little tent and some balance beam things. So they're playing, and then I set out our school stuff, and that's when we try to make sure the toddler is all set, and then we jump into that more direct instruction time. And for us with homeschooling, I have a lot of day in the life videos on my channel where I really show how this looks. But this school year, have been starting with my first grader just because her work takes longer. So I want her to get started sooner.
Yeah.
And so I start with her. I have my son set up at a little, it's like a breakfast tray desk. So he's doing his independent time. And then we swap or switch places, or my daughter will keep working at the kitchen table. So we have that kind of time. And then for our family subjects, we do 5 in a row curriculum, which is
Oh, I
always
love that.
children's books, and you
Yeah.
can select from a menu of different activities. So that kind of brings us all together again. And then with our kids being young, we are often usually done before lunchtime. So the kids get a couple minutes to play, depends on if lunch is ready, if I've done an easier lunch or not. And then we have lunchtime. We've been, especially once this Minnesota winter seems to be wrapping up, I hope. We just
Yeah,
had a
we're all
snow-
ready for spring. I mean, it's probably a little warmer here in Pennsylvania. Yesterday we had a day that was 68, but that's really unusual. That was like a special day. Everybody knew it's supposed to be 68. And it was so nice. But yeah, we're all so excited for spring.
Yes. And I haven't been the best historically about getting us out in the winter time, and I don't know if it's just because of my preferences, like I don't want to be cold, or if it's just having young kids. But we
Yeah.
have now been going outside after lunchtime because we have time between lunch and quiet time. So quiet time is our next phase of our day after lunch, and then hopefully playing outside for maybe an hour, up to an hour. We move into quiet time, which it used to be nap time, and we've shifted that rhythm and routine over in our family to a screen-free time to be apart from each other.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be a selfish time where mama doesn't want to be around the kids. But for me as an introvert, I thrive on having quiet time. I kind of rely on it, and I know I
Yeah.
need to also have open hands about it because if the baby is teething, if she needs me, I can't be super regimented about it. But we do a
Yeah.
daily quiet time, and that's an expected part of our routine. The kids don't balk at it. They don't complain, and they're not surprised by, oh, mama's
Yeah.
doing quiet time today. That's weird. We don't do that. So every day we do quiet time, I would say. And that means, so my 2 oldest kids share a room for sleeping, but I actually have our oldest go into the master bedroom, and she has an audiobook player called the Yodo player, and some cards
Yeah.
I've pre-selected for audiobooks. I mean, she gets to choose the book to listen to, though. We have a lot of cards. And my son will be building with gears and listening to his own Yodo player in the kids' room. And then Svea, the 2-year-old, is napping. So that quiet time is such a gift for everyone.
Yeah.
That's like one of my biggest things I recommend for moms of young children. I'm very interested to see how we might shift that when I'm when our kids are older. So I
Yeah.
love hearing what other families' routines are as you have more children or as they like no one's napping anymore. But I love having that screen-free quiet time. We've worked our way up to 2 hours a day, and
That's
that takes
great.
time to work up to that point. And the kids, of course, can, come out of their room if they need me, if there's an emergency, if they need to go to the bathroom. It's nothing super duper strict, but they know the
Right.
expectations. And it used to be like 40 minutes, and then we worked our way up. We actually have a visual timer for the kids, so they're not asking, you know, how
Yeah.
many minutes left and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It works beautifully. And I have to say, it's a beautiful part of our routine because the kids get the space to think their own thoughts, to play their own games, not
Yeah.
always under the rule of maybe a more opinionated sibling. And
Right.
and so that's been working really well for us. The rest of the day, I feel like goes by so quickly after quiet time is over. It's just more playtime, maybe outside playtime, maybe running errands, and then making supper. I try to start making supper, or at least be thinking about it around
Yeah.
4:30. And then we have supper, and then maybe playtime. My husband will hopefully be home. He's not often home for supper, but then in the evening they'll get some time with Daddy, and then it's bedtime, maybe roughly around 8 o'clock. And
Yeah.
so I hope that helps give maybe other moms a little
It
glimpse into
does. Yes.
our
And it
everyday lives.
reminds me a lot of our when we were in that stage. And that was a very sweet stage. Not always easy, but a very sweet stage. And it was quiet time. You were talking about quiet time. I had this thought. It's so good for moms and it's so good for kids. And I would just hear my kids in their room if the audiobook was over or whatever. I would just hear them imagining and talking to themselves. They really do love that time alone to just probably think through some of the things they were doing today or learning or books you read or whatever. It is really good for them to just kind of rest or just play and be quiet. And my kids, I remember them always loving that. We do still have quiet time here. It just looks, yeah, we do. It just looks a lot different in this season. It's not as quiet because at this stage, I mean, we have a 17, 16, so it's so different, but it is still quiet for 2 hours, and it's just not quite as quiet. And the ones that nap go down, and then some of them do quiet time. So right now it's pretty much just our 2 and 3-year-old that the 2-year-old naps, sometimes the 3-year-old naps, but they need the quiet time. They love it. And then the rest of the house, everyone has to be doing something quiet. So for a little while, some of them will be reading. And actually for the first hour, I'm often reading aloud to them. So it's the second hour that I come back and is my quiet time and is their time to just kind of do something, play with Legos. I think that's usually what, especially my boys are doing. They're always playing with Legos. So yeah, that quiet time is just so, so important for the mom too, to just get a little breather. I think it's nice.
I think as a homeschooling family, or as a homeschooling parent, you have to work in those times during the day when you do get a breather, because your children are not gone for, what is it, 8, 9 hours a day,
Yeah.
including bus rides and stuff.
Yeah.
And that quiet time it's wonderful because it's not a negative for the kids. And it sounds like, isn't that like a timeout or something? And it truly is not. They come to crave it, and they come out of my kids have like craft supplies in their quiet time. And they come out of their quiet time rooms almost every day, eager to show me something that they've made or done. And
Yeah.
it's such a restful routine for us because, my daughter's coming out with like an Iroquois village she created, and my son's drawing a map of some wild animals and where you can find them on his little pretend map. It's
Oh,
darling.
that's
But
neat. That's neat.
I'm glad to hear that how you can work quiet time in when you have older kids too. So,
Yep, we still have quiet time, and everybody knows when mom goes to my bedroom, that's my quiet time, and they don't interrupt unless it's an emergency. So yeah, I love it.
wonderful.
Yeah. Well, can you just tell us, lastly, some of your favorite resources? What curriculum, what books you love for the ages of kids that you have?
Sure. Let's see. Curriculum-wise, I have a lot of videos up on my YouTube channel because my channel focuses on motherhood, homemaking, and homeschooling. And right now we are loving, let's see, for first grade, we've got things like Christian Light Math. That's been wonderful for us, especially this school year. That was new for us this school year. Also, All About Reading has been a wonderful phonics-based program for both of my older kids, and we're planning to continue with that. They have a pre-reading program, so
Oh,
that's a
wow.
good one when you have younger kids to develop
Yeah.
a lot of those pre-literacy skills. And then, like I've mentioned before, big stacks of books. We we are not book minimalists in our family, so pretty much when we go to the bookstore as a family, my husband's like, "Yep, pick out a book." Everyone gets to pick out a
Yeah.
book. It's very fun. Math-wise, for my son who's in pre-K this year, he is continuing to love the mathematical reasoning workbooks, and those actually can begin at age 3. And so I mentioned that for moms of young kids, they are phenomenal math workbooks, open and go style, and very cute and fun for kids. So those I attribute a lot of my son's like good foundation in math to the mathematical reasoning workbooks. Trying to think of what else. We love that 5 in a row curriculum, which is a
Yeah.
way to, again, read a children's book every week, a different children's book, but you read it 5 days in a row, and you get to do all sorts of different activities. And it's not like all crafts or complicated things. There are just little things that you can point out, or discussions you can have with your kids, or maybe a quick snack you can make that relates to the book Miss
Story.
Rumphius or something.
Yeah.
And, we've loved that. That was also new for us this year. You mentioned books. That's a hard one for me to narrow down, but on my website, justbeblog.com, I have a tab at the top that says Shop Our Home Library, I think, Shop Our Family's Library, and I will continually be adding books on there. But a few that jump to mind right now, for in terms of longer books, we've recently loved reading Fantastic Mr. Fox. We've loved Mr. Popper's Penguins as a family.
Oh, that's so good. Mr. Fox, is that Roald Dahl?
Yes, that one is Roald Dahl.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, his books are great. And
That
the other
one's
one,
a funny one.
yeah, those are good for boys, I think, because they totally pick up on that humor and silly things. They love that sort of thing.
Yeah, and my son Soren, he is about 5 and a half right now, and he gets such a kick out of Mr. Popper's Penguins, and so I actually recorded, not myself, but I got an audiobook onto a Yodo card for his audiobook player, and so he will also listen again to those books. We have a lot of classic books actually for our Yodo players, the audiobook. Basically,
Yeah.
audiobooks are a great way to get even more books in during quiet time too.
Right,
And
right.
we've been loving, let's see, Seven Silly Eaters is a beloved
Yeah, that's
book
cute.
for us. Miss Rumphius is probably my favorite book of all time.
Hmm.
When the Wind Stops is a good one. And then for us, we love the Littles. We've been going through the Littles
Oh,
chapter
that's
books.
new to me. Who's
Really,
the author?
I can't remember, like maybe John Peterson or something like that. Like just
Okay.
not a name I usually recognize, but
Yeah.
there are about 14 books of the Littles, and they're about little tiny people who live within the walls of a big people's houses. And my son loves that one too, and so does my daughter. And then we also, I'm trying to think of another one. We like scholastic biographies, kind of as
Oh,
a
yeah,
book.
yes. They are great. We have a couple of those too. Mm-hmm.
And then finally, anything by Arnold LaBelle. So we love Arnold
Yeah.
LaBelle's Fables book, and we have the Frog and Toad Treasury. But I want to also remind any moms to don't forget to check out the Fables book, and don't forget to check out his not Frog and Toad, Owl at Home book. Owl at Home.
Okay, that's new to me too.
Oh, good. There's Mouse Tales and Mouse Soup. And I feel like everything he writes is hilarious for ages like 4 through 8,
Yeah.
especially because they can see the silliness of the decisions the characters are making. I love Arnold LaBelle, and I just never want to stop reading children's books and picture books. My aunt, who is a writer, she once was telling me how any good literature or any good children's book is good literature for all ages. So
Yeah.
even if your kids get older, I want to recommend to moms I plan to keep on bringing out the picture books, and I'm sure
Oh, yeah.
your older kids, I
Yes.
bet they listen in,
They
or
do.
have favorite books that they remember.
Yeah. And sometimes when I'm reading a picture book to one of the younger kids, I can tell that they're nearby and it brings back memories for them. And yeah, they listen in. They act like they're doing something important, but I can tell they're listening in. And I think of some of the books. I mean, we loved Frog and Toad. We still love Frog and Toad. Some of the books that we've read together over the years, they have been like good friends. And I still love reading them. We read a lot of the same ones over and over again. They're just lots of great memories made with our kids.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah. This has been such a great conversation, and I know moms are going to walk away with a lot of fresh ideas, especially moms that have all young kids at home. So thanks so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for having me here on your podcast.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining me and Hannah today. I hope you'll go and check out her YouTube channel and her blog. She has so many great resources there. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.